fear, frustration, and failure is overcome. Fear, frustration, and failure is overcome with faith, forward thinking, and follow through.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business. But launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answers. Here is Bedros Keuilian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Welcome back, friends, to another incredible episode, as today's guest is a dear friend of mine, a legend in the fitness industry, and also has an incredible rap sheet, so here we go. Now, he's a world-class trainer, author, and speaker who's also the founder of Fitness Quest 10 and trains dozens of current NFL, MLB, and MMA athletes. Now, his list of clients include future Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion Drew Brees, LaDainian Tomlinson, Reggie Bush, Carson Palmer, Mike Chandler, amongst many others. Now, he's also a finalist on the primetime network show NBC Strong that's now streaming on Netflix. And he just finished his third book, Get Your Mind Right, in June 2020, and his podcast, The Todd Durkin Impact Show, that impacts thousands of listeners daily. Todd Durkin, my friend, welcome to the show.
Bryce, it is so great to be here. Thanks for having me on as a guest, man. I'm pumped up.
You got it, man. Well, shoot, I'm so excited as well. So
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great to be here. Well, we got a lot to cover. Before we do, give our audience the backstory, my friend.
Wow, where do I start? Well, this is the Fitness Business Podcast, and I think it's always interesting how you get into the field. Most people get into the field because they have a passion for fitness or helping people, and I actually mistakenly got into the field because of an injury. 1995, I was playing professional football over in Europe. I blew up my back. I was a quarterback, and as a quarterback, you're taught to avoid contact, right? You're like, avoid contact. And I like to run, but I did a hook slide after picking up a first down. Two linebackers came in and sandwiched their helmet on my back. Cool. And that was the beginning of the end. 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, degenerative back disease. And a doctor over in France said, "Do you have a back problem? The football career is done." I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good. And interesting enough, I don't know, Bryce, if you've ever been there, but for me, from the time I was 5 years old, growing up in New Jersey, the youngest of 8 kids, mom and dad got divorced when I literally was 5. I always wanted to be a pro football player, and I believe that's why God made me. I was like, I'm going to be a pro football player. I believe there's a platform that I can really give back to the universe and do great things. And I believe that up until that day in Aix-en-Provence, France, when I was 25 years old, that was my mission. And I did everything around that, and I was blessed to do it. But when that day came and I got hurt, I went down this 5-year, very circuitous path to fitness. And I didn't know it at the time because I was doing a lot of soul searching. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I'd say there were many days I was probably depressed and downright down about what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? I'm 25 years old. All my friends are back on Wall Street making good money, mm-hmm. and they have careers. And I'm going back to grad school at age 27. Mm-hmm. Like, man, I had already been to massage therapy school. I'd already had my degree. I had my certifications as a strength coach and trainer, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And through that long route, I ended up in San Diego, California. I'm originally from New Jersey, and lived in 13 cities in 5 years, really just trying to heal my own back pain without having surgery.
All within the San Diego area?
No, all within the United States.
Oh, wow.
I was living anywhere I found a guru or energy healer or a physical therapist or doctor who I thought could help me. But that eventually led me to a Rolfer out here in Los Angeles, and then grad school in San Diego. And in San Diego, I met, on the first day of grad school, I met my future wife.
Melanie.
Woo. So that's what grounded me and kept me here, because when I finished my degree, I was 29 years old, and I was offered, at that time, a full-time strength and conditioning coach position back in LA. Great position, great job. I love coaching, mm-hmm. but I also thought this might be the one I was going to marry. and she was just offered a full-time teaching position at a college here as well. She accepted that. I turned that job down, and I'm scratching my head thinking, man, okay, my back pain is resolved. I got my graduate degree. I guess I'm going to take a chance and open a business. And in year 2000, January 2000, I opened my little studio, 2,000 square feet, called it Fitness Quest 10. We had carpet, refurbished equipment. I had no clients, no money, and no business plan.
But a ton of passion.
That's it. It was passion. I wanted to help people.
Yeah, man.
And I didn't honestly care. And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. I didn't have any business experience, but I really had the desire to help people. And I remember I was consulting with a good friend of mine who was taking this boot camp class that I was teaching. And I was scared to open up. He's like, scared of what? I'm like, I'm going to lose everything I got. He's like, you don't got anything.
What do you got, dude?
You got your 1987 Volvo with the velour hanging down, and it's a piece of garbage. And you don't even own a house, or you have no kids or a wife. You have nothing to lose. I'm like, you're right. So I took a chance, and that was the best chance I could have ever taken, because for the last 21 years, Fitness Quest 10 has been my sanctuary, and it's where I've been able to impact a lot of people. And I didn't have the business knowledge then, and I didn't have athletes. I didn't have those pro athletes you just named. I didn't have a long list of clients I worked with. I just had the desire to help people, and that was it.
And you do, man. You do.
Well, thank you. It's been one heck of a ride the last 21 years. It's interesting looking back now. For me, like, God had this master plan back to the back injury that I never would have said when I'm sitting in an apartment in France that, this is going to become my purpose. Well, it just happened so that in early 2000s, I started attracting a lot of people who had back pain. And that led me to my first athlete, Vaughn Parker, which led me to become a sports massage therapist for the San Diego Chargers, which led me to work with LaDainian Tomlinson, the first round pick, 5th overall for the Chargers, who brought in Drew Brees, who I've worked with for the last 18 years. One person led to the next, to the next, to the next. Never did I think in 1995 a back injury would open up this entire business and empire and world that I live in now, of just being able to help people even now outside of San Diego, because my life has evolved now to just more than Fitness Quest 10.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, the tragedy disguised, or actually a blessing disguised as a tragedy, has like been the pivotal point for like an exceptional career of the last, going on 3 decades.
Yeah, Bryce, thank you. It's interesting when you look back. No one likes tragedy, no one likes hard times. But when I was 20, my dad died, and it was the biggest setback I ever experienced, but it really deepened my faith at that point as a 20-year-old man. The back injury 5 years later, you talk about, tragedy to triumph, that became the driving purpose of like my next step in life, because all of a sudden, instead of being that NFL quarterback, I was working with pretty much every NFL quarterback in the country. And to this day, I'm still working with a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of athletes overall. But that became my driving purpose. And even through the pandemic, looking through like, what's next? How do I evolve? And what are the next levels I can get to? 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson, I'd been training for 3 years at that point. He won the NFL MVP.
Yeah.
His training partner was Drew Brees, who had just previously ripped out his shoulder out of his socket, who I was with Drew during that time. Drew, 6 months after doing that, 9 months later, became the NFL runner-up MVP to LaDainian, his training partner. I remember having the conversation with both of them in my office, and LT said, what next? I'm at the top. I need something else to drive me. I need some more motivation, because I told you I wanted to be the best running back to ever play the game. I just got MVP. What's the next step? I'm like, got to repeat. It was all about, you got to find a deeper purpose. And sometimes when you're at the top of your game, whatever your career is, sometimes you really do some soul search, and I call it tapping into the whispers, and you're like, man, is this what I'm designed to do, or is there another level? Is there some potential inside of me that's untapped that I don't know about, or the world doesn't know about? And I learned that from LT in 2006. And every year I ask myself that question: am I serving my deepest, most divine purpose? through Fitness Quest 10, through speaking, through podcasting, whatever it may be, is how can I have more impact? How can I take my gifts that I've been given and try to share them with the world?
Yeah. And that you have, and certainly we're going to kind of talk about that as the conversation goes on, but I want to kind of drill in a little bit to the athletes and the professional athletes, because, our audience back at home is certainly like fired up at that. In a little story, we were kind of talking off script, but speaking of Drew Brees, back when I was, I think, 16 or 17, I grew up in the state of Michigan, and the University of Michigan was playing Purdue, and my uncle, huge football fan, was like, Bryce, I'm going to take you and your brother Barrett, and you got to see these two kids. One's named Drew Brees, one's named Drew Henson, and they're going to be lights out, over the next 2 decades. Sure. And sure enough, they have. And certainly Drew Henson got in the league, played for the Yankees. Unfortunately, his career kind of puttered out a little bit. Yep. But Drew Brees, a legend in the industry. Won Super Bowl like champions. How was it like training him? Like, how was it like training the athletes? Really give us some insight on to what that world looks like.
Well, for one thing, is people often forget where people came from. Drew Brees, while he was talented in college, only had 2 scholarship offers. One was to Dartmouth, and then late, the coach Joe Tiller came in late and offered Drew right before he was going to sign with Dartmouth. So he had two opportunities to play in college, Purdue being one. Mm-hmm. He went to Purdue. Mm-hmm. But after he got drafted in the second round by the Chargers, many people forget that Drew Brees was benched early in his career. He wasn't performing well after he eventually got a starting job. He was benched. But Drew never gave up belief or faith in himself, and I was with him during his time. And even when they drafted Phillip Rivers, his heir apparent, he took it personal. When he ripped his shoulder out of his socket, a lot of people don't realize that Dr. James Andrews down in Birmingham didn't give Drew a chance to come back and play at a high level. He said, Drew, if you ever play again, you're going to be one lucky person. Mm-hmm. 2 months after that surgery, I remember to this day like it was yesterday, Drew walking into my original location. It's upstairs on the second floor. Him coming in and saying, the NFL Comeback Player of the Year is in the house. And I'm like, he's crazy. Like, he just had this.
This is what he says to you.
What he said to me. He said to everyone in the studio, by the way. And I'm like, he has like 12 staples in his shoulder. He can't even lift his arm up. I'm supposed to train him that day. And my job was to get him back. And it was the belief that early on, even when he was failing, that some people forget, they just think Drew Brees was always great. No, right. He wasn't. He had a lot of setbacks. When he won the Super Bowl in 2009, his mother committed suicide a month before training camp. And I remember getting that phone call, and he was distressed. Obviously, your mom just passed away. And I remember Drew going to a place mentally that football was going to be a distraction from reality at that point because of all that was going on. And he won the Super Bowl that year, and dedicated the season to his mom and that. But when you ask about Drew and some of the athletes I work with, you realize that many of them either came from humble beginnings or a very blue-collar work ethic. They had to overcome some adversity and challenge, and that created and manifested something inside of them that allowed them to persevere through the challenging times. And Drew is a great example of that. Many of the guys that you just mentioned are examples of that. But that's one of the reasons why I've loved working with them, is because when I started working with Drew, in some ways I saw myself. I was undersized as a 6-foot quarterback. No one gave you the chance to go to the NFL. But here I am as the trainer, the coach, not the athlete. So I was taking a different role. But whenever Drew and I were throwing, he knew right away that I was a quarterback because we'd go out in the field and I could throw still. I was, 30 years old and spry. I could still throw and run fast. So I had instant respect from him on that. And I could talk turkey with him on reading defenses and film and preparation. So I was able to mentor him, including how to take care of your body. Mm-hmm. And not just training, but recovery. And doing body work and soft tissue work and Feldenkrais and Rolfing and Pilates and yoga and all these different things and breath work that I've incorporated in his routine for his 18-year career. Or he had a 20-year career. I came in 2 years after he got started.
Good on you, man. That's crazy. And it's interesting that blue collar, like scrappy underdog mentality. I label myself that way, and I feel just your energy, like that just gets it done. And I can see that correlation between the athletes that you train.
Well, here's the conversation we'd have while warming up sometimes. Now that Drew has 4 kids, and any athlete, I'm like, how do you teach your kids that? How do you teach your kids a blue collar, gritty mentality when you have millions?
Yeah.
Or you have money where you don't have to worry about putting food on the table. When I grew up, I was the lunch ticket kid, right? I'm the youngest of 8 kids. Mom and dad get divorced. We didn't have money. So I was the lunch ticket kid, having to hand those orange tickets to the lunch lady, being embarrassed because we were the poor family. How do you teach that to your kids when they don't have to worry about that? Right? How do you give them the responsibility and the expectations to do this, and not everything's going to be handed to you on a silver platter? You got to work for that stuff. It's not easy, especially when you're at that level. If you're flying, private and you got multiple houses and everything else. And I've had those conversations. It's probably one of the reasons why I've developed such close relationships with all of my clients, is just keeping it real on that. There's no one better on this earth than anyone else. I don't care how much money you have or don't have. That doesn't make a man or a woman. It's about the insides. And ultimately, as a father myself of 3 kids, and as a husband, that's the most important job we have, right? And I would tell Drew and LaDainian and Sproles and all these guys, like, great, we're going to train hard for 90 minutes or so, but what you do outside of here is going to be really where the rubber meets the road as a dad, as a husband, because you get money in your pocket. You go to Vegas, you can do some stupid stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And many pros do.
Many pros do. So that's why I've always been a big believer in surrounding yourself with the right people, a good network, and really caring for people and these guys and gals that I work with at a deeper level than just a great workout.
Yeah. What would you say from like interaction perspective is the difference between training a professional athlete versus, your average Joe off the street, right? Because I think it's interesting, you have access to the highest caliber athletes in the world, but also too at Fitness Quest, you also trade normal everyday people, do you not?
Right next to them.
Yeah.
I have grandmas and grandpas training right next to them. I started out with LaDainian, and it was because I had literally Donna Dickinson, the 65-year-old tennis player, at 8 o'clock, and LaDainian at 9 o'clock, and then Kathleen Carter-Pease at 10 o'clock, who was the 65-year-old grandparents, and it was literally back and forth. It was because it was out of necessity. But then I realized something. I said, wait a second, Donna Dickinson is training so that she could still be on the tennis court. The pieces they just want to be able to pick up their grandkids, and they want to be able to go travel and feel good and have their health in retirement.
Yeah.
And then you have LaDainian coming in, who wants to be the best running back and never play in the world. But guess what? They're all after the same thing. They want to be the best they could possibly be. So over the course of my 21 years, I've had times where I've said to myself, should I have like an athlete performance only facility? One of those big warehouses that, looks good and all the banners hanging. And every time it was the secret sauce was no. It was everyone, kids, grandmas, grandpas, pro athletes are all striving for the same thing, to be their best. Why separate them? And matter of fact, the comments I get even to this day is from the athletes is, man, that woman over there is working. That grandma, I need to pick it up. Like, we'll have one of them on a curved treadmill sprinting at 21 miles an hour, and all of a sudden, grandma's on the bike next to her, and grandma's just pedaling real slow, and then all of a sudden, she starts picking it up and sprinting on the bike because the athlete next to her is going fast. And it's a culture. It's a culture of we all are in this together. We're all trying to get better. And that's something that we have created since day one, kind of by mistake, because I'd train anyone back in the day. And even today, I still love working with all people. People are like, oh, you just work with pro athletes. No, I don't. If you were, I have a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. I still train some grandmas and grandpas. Heck, I train Pastor David Jeremiah. He's 80 years old. And this guy is still pastor in a church, Turning Point. He's on TV every Sunday. And this brother is motivating me because he's spitting out like 2-3 books a year. I'm like, man, I got to pick it up. Pastor Jay is killing me on this stuff. So to me, it's all about the desire and will to be better. Cool.
That's gold, man. Curtailing for the last conversation about impact and about passion, about purpose, and I feel like these are your taglines. And I want to just kind of get some insight, like, why is that important to you? where does that show up in your, career and your life? And also too, not only do you train athletes and run Fitness to Quest 10, but you're an incredible speaker and you're on mastermind groups and you're always inspiring other people. So from that core, how does that show up in all that you do?
I think by birth, I'm a coach. I think that's what I do best is when I'm coaching. But as I've evolved, it's not just coaching physical performance and getting people faster or stronger. I love taking people to another level, entrepreneurially, business-wise, spiritually, physically, mentally. Like I love trying to figure people out and then tap into something that has never been tapped into before. And sometimes that even means like believing in someone when they don't believe in themselves. Because over the last 2 decades, my role has grown as I was doing soul searching back in my 20s and then opening the gym. My role has grown from being a trainer / coach into really mentoring a lot of different people, mentoring my athletes in life as well as on the field, mentoring trainers and coaches through my mastermind group and how I'm doing that now with hundreds of different trainers and coaches, as well as even like this podcast, my podcast. I love speaking. I love speaking, and whether there's 10 people, 100, 1,000 in the audience, and really looking at people in their eyes and trying to connect with them and trying to change a life from the stage. Like, I think if there's a wheelhouse I really love, I love speaking. I love getting on stage and firing people up and seeing if I can motivate, a couple hundred people at a time. That's why I'm so excited, like live events are back. Because my soul was shriveling up. I'm like, we need live events, please. Can we have live events? So I've got my own live events, speaking at live events now here and later in the second part of 2021 and into 2022. So to me, that's something that makes me tick, is people and coaching. And when I've studied great coaches, I'm talking, everyone from the John Woodens of the world to my high school football coach, Coach Wolf, who to me is the best coach of all time, to me, I'm always like, how do I find out what makes a person tick and literally touch their soul? That's what I think of.
And with that, and one of the questions I was going to ask is that how you define coaching? Like, what does coaching mean to you? Would be that it?
Yes. Great coaches have the ability to change a body, mind, or spirit. They know how to tap into the heart and the head of somebody so that they can motivate and inspire themselves. You may have the ability to do that, but I was once told that you can't motivate people; they've got to motivate themselves. But you can touch upon them and make them believe in themselves. But you can't motivate someone more than they can motivate themselves. I'm like, well, listen, I'm going to do everything I can to motivate someone to get in their head. That's why you just mentioned the book, Get Your Mind Right. That's why I wrote my book. Is like, get your mind right, because so much of success is between the ears.
All of it.
I mean,
man.
So much of life is you live most of your life in your head.
Yeah.
You talk to yourself all day long. At least I do. I don't know anyone else, but sometimes I talk to myself out loud. But you live in your head. And what I find is sometimes 80% of your talk is negative, or you're beating yourself up, or there's not the conviction or the confidence in why you might want to take a risk or give up what you've established for 20 years and say, you know what, there's another level. I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to fail to get to another level on that stuff. So to me, a coach exemplifies great character, great courage, discipline, sacrifice, is going to have the right morals and values and do the right things. Because I've worked for a lot of coaches, worked for and played for and with a lot of athletes and coaches who say one thing and do another. That's not my style. I like to be an example of a coach of when a kid comes back and invites me to his wedding. Says, Coach, I want you to be in my wedding, or I want you to attend my wedding. I love that. Or a man or woman wants me to minister their wedding. To me, that's what life's all about, is how can I put an imprint in their soul to make them better? That's what drives me. That's what wakes me up. That's what fires me up, is who's it going to be today? And my prayer every morning is, and sometimes the last 15 months it was overwhelming, but dear God, put in front of me today who I'm supposed to impact and touch, even though if it's bigger than I think it can be. That's my prayer. And there's times I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this day. Like I got some serious conversations with some of my either clients or kids I'm coaching, or business owners who are facing possible bankruptcy, or their business is on the line, and they're like, trying to get through the revenues again. We got to get it up, and I'm pouring into them like, listen, we got this. We're built for this. We can do this. You got to believe it. Let's be smart. Let's set a strategy. Let's go out and serve people. And to me, that's one of the things I do best is when I'm coming from that fireplace and helping people believe in themselves.
Yeah, man, and that you do. And I just fire me up so much, TD. Now, speaking of, a coach being implanted in your soul, one of the things you just mentioned, which I believe you said your high school coach was the best coach ever for you. Yeah. I would imagine he did that for you. So can you share a little bit about that? Like why, this coach was so impactful for you? I think there's probably some big lessons there.
Icon. I get choked up because he was like a father-like figure. And when I say I came from a poor family, let me tell you what, Brick, New Jersey is a football town. And I have 2 brothers and 5 sisters. And my oldest brother, both my brothers played for Brick. But when you grow up in Brick, you want to be a football player because you want to play for Coach Wolf. Now, when he passed away a few years ago, he was the 5th winningest football coach all time in the U.S. This man, he was the superintendent of the schools, he was the mayor of the town, and he was the high school football coach. And he had, I believe, 16 state championships, and everything about him was class. And he, was a Vince Lombardi kind of a guy. He wore suits during the game, high top, black top cleats with the suit, and they call him the Silver Fox because he was smart. But I remember him because when I was playing Pop Warner, he went to every Pop Warner game, would step in the 40-yard line, he would take notes on his future talent. And I remember trying to play with Pop Warner, I'm like, man, I'm going to play for that guy someday. My brother who played for the first state championship game, I remember when I was a little kid, watching this Silver Fox come by me, knowing that was Coach Wolf, that guy was an iconic figure, that I was going to play for that guy someday. When I was in middle school, when they recognized a talent in me because I was a Pop Warner All-American, Coach Wolf used to pick me up from middle school, drive me over to the high school so I could practice with the varsity because he believed I was going to be a varsity player as a freshman. They'd only done that one other time in 35 years of the school. And sure enough, as a freshman, I had the opportunity to start as a quarterback in that school. And I knew that was serious stuff.
Good for you.
And I knew that was an opportunity, but I knew also that was my only way out. But I also never wanted to let Coach Wolf down. I never wanted to let that guy down in school, in how I conducted myself, and partying or not partying. I only remember him yelling at me one time. And it was this one time, I believe it was my sophomore year, we ran they were trying to put the Syracuse freeze option in because I could run. And we ran a wing T offense back then. And I remember I was trying to be so perfect in this game. Coach Wolf runs out in the field. I just got sacked, and I got mud in my face. He grabs me by the face mask, and you could do that back then. I wish we could still do it now. Can I get an amen, anybody? But he grabs me. He's like, Durkin, why are you playing so robotic? Loosen up and play. Loosen up and play. I still hear his voice. Don't play so robotic. Loosen up. Get a feel of the game. Play. Have a sense of the people. Have a sense of the crowd and that stuff. And Coach Wolf, we went on and done great things in my career. And after my dad died, I was a junior in college when my dad passed away. Coach Wolf drove 7 hours and came to a college football game. They played on a Friday. He came down on Saturday. He slipped me a handshake. And that handshake was $100. And that $100, I didn't have anything in my wallet. I had nothing. So here I'm in college. We didn't have any money. Fortunately, I had a scholarship. But he gave me $100. I remember that was like giving me $1 million. I'm like, he just drove 7 hours in his car to watch me, give me a handshake, and turn around and go back to New Jersey. And I was like, I would die for that guy. If I could be a fraction of the coach that guy is, and whether that's in high school football, it's in another sport, or it's as a trainer, or it's a business owner, or it's another industry, I want to have the impact on other people like Coach Wolf had on me. And to me, at least at this point in my career, that's something I still strive for, because Coach Wolf, he coached until he was like 75. So I got a long way to go. But he was awesome. And he still inspires me. And I think the way, when I'm on the football field now, because I coach my kids in high school football, and I coach a lot of, not just the pros, I coach a lot of younger kids. I do my best not to cuss. I do my best to treat every young man and woman with respect and to really like them, because that's how Coach Wolf did it. It drives me nuts sometimes when I see things that are the antithesis of that. Not that coaches aren't ever hot and they don't cuss. That's cool if you do that. But I just know the coach I had is a coach I just admired and wanted to be like. And I had a great role model that I try to model my training career and my coaching career after as well.
Man, dude, that's powerful. Two grown men choked up on that. That touched my soul. And I know our audience got a lot of value, so I appreciate that share, man.
Yeah, I think, it's as a coach, as a trainer, I don't know if there's any more noble profession. And I mean that because if a kid says to mom and dad, Coach says, that's all they need to hear. Mm-hmm. Coach says. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you're a coach to 45-year-old men or women, or you're a teen and you're looking to make some life transformative decisions of partying, smoking, whatever you're looking at doing, Coach says. They'll do it.
They will.
Or they're going to think about Coach Durkin says, or he did it this way. So I think about the responsibility. Like, it's not just showing up and training a kid or a mom or a dad, or someone's going through a tough time in life, or they're going through a divorce in a relationship, or the pandemic kicked their butt and they're feeling empty or lost, or they feel like there's another career that's for them. To me, the nobility of a coach, you have the ability to impact somebody far more than you even know. And sometimes as trainers and coaches, I think we take that for granted. Mm-hmm. I think we show up and we teach a great Group X class and the energy's fired up, and the magic happens before and after the class. When you connect with somebody, you text them, you give them a phone call and say, hey, I noticed you were down a little bit today. Is everything all right? Or it's on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday when you text them or do a crazy video like I do it for my athletes, and like, hey, coach, I need to talk to you. And then they open up and they share what's going on. That's why we do what we do. That's the power of a coach. So as much as I love when I'm like in a huddle, because I love huddles. I love when we're in a huddle and we're getting after it and we're breaking down and playing music. That energy is electric. But sometimes it's when there's no one else around. It's that last one or two, people in class that are hanging out, that woman or that man, or that young kid who doesn't have a mom or a dad, or mom or dad passed, or they're going through a tough time, or they're getting beaten, and they stick around, they want to talk. Oh, that's where the juice is found.
Oh, yeah.
That's where it's found right there.
Amen. So transitioning, another big topic, and we've talked about it, and you've hit on a few times with Drew, or your life story, or just, things in general, is adversity, right? And the value of coaching, right? To be able to kind of get people to that next level and battle through adversity. As we shoot this, we're hopefully what's the tail end of COVID. We've certainly all been through some really adverse times. Can you just talk about, your experience, some thoughts on adversity, the value of it, and also maybe if you want to short story tell a little bit about your knee, because I know that's something that you've really been a big challenge for you the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. No one likes adversity. I don't like the adversity either. I think no one really, hey, we're going through adverse times, tough times. I know in reflection, in hindsight, we look back and it's always the toughest times of our life that have formed us the best. Mm-hmm. COVID certainly has impacted everyone, and thank God we're on the other side of this. I know for me initially, COVID was, I'm going to save my gym, I'm going to save my members, I'm going to save trainers, I'm going to save the industry, I'm going to save the world. And I literally had that mentality, Bryce, because when it happened, I was like, I'm going to go live every day. I thought it was going to be like 3 weeks long. I literally thought it was going to be like 3 weeks long. So like, all right, every day, 12 noon, 7 days a week, Good News Network, we're going. Well, 91 days later, I'm still alive. I'm like, man, I'm exhausted. But what I realized through that is, number one, the importance of mellow yellow time and taking time for yourself, personal care time. Because even right now, as I speak, I'm still coming out of like everyone else, I'm coming out of a form of PTSD. It's been a battle. It's been tough. At the end of 2020, my knee was hurting. And I had my other knee replaced 2018. My knee is killing me. And my wife's like, Todd, this year's a wash. Get the other one taken care of. I'm like, man, I don't want to do it. I got enough going on. I'm stressed. And there's a lot going on with the gym. And I try to get, I'm trying to quote, I call it tap into the whispers of what God's telling me to do. So I made a decision to get my knee replaced in December 2020, and I got that replaced. And right around that time, coming into January, made some big decisions with my gym, bringing in another gentleman, Jeff Bristol, who's going to really take a major stake at Fitness Quest 10 to free up some of my time so I can try to spread impact. I really want to do more speaking and writing along with training. And all of a sudden, like in February, my back started hurting. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And make a long story short, what I realized is both my knees had given out because my back injury from 25 years ago, to bring this show full circle,
back from France?
Back in 1995, France.
Holy smokes.
They did an image of it because my back kicked up. And they're like, what the heck did you do to your back? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I heard it 25 years ago back in playing, professional football in Europe. They're like, how are you doing what you're doing? Well, what I realized is, although at some point I got to deal with my back, is stress of the pandemic, stress of trying to save the world was wreaking havoc on my system, not sleeping, I was working 7 days a week. I was trying to save everything. Mm-hmm. So fortunately now, 4 or 5 months later, and through working with some great doctors and naturopathic doctors and allopathic doctors, my back is much better, and I'm really trying to take great personal care of myself, knowing that, hey, as I'm 50 years old now, I know I'm going to die when I'm 110, so I got 60 years left now.
110.
110.
Okay.
It's going to be 10-10-2082, October 10th. 10's my number, so 10-10-22. I'll be 110 years old. So I got 60 years left to get impact left.
Got it.
So I got to make sure my back can hold me up for another 60 years. But no, it's been one heck of 15 months or so. But I do realize this: your body is a great way to give you a barometer to where you're at with stress. And in 1995-96, I started reading a guy named Dr. John Sarno. Dr. John Sarno has a book on back pain. He talked about the mental, emotional aspects of pain and physical pain. Okay. So if you're under stress, how that can impact or it could affect certain parts of your body, like your back. So for me, I look back now, I had a lot of stress in the pandemic, like everyone else.
Right.
But December, January, February, with my knee, with trying to save the world, with the business, and what was the next step that I was going to make in life, my back flared up and said, yo, TD, tap in.
Like the source, the stress.
Absolutely. Sat right in my back. So now I just try to listen to that like I did way back in the day when a mentor told me, hey, listen, don't fight your back pain anymore. Don't fight it. Welcome it. It's teaching you something. It's trying to tell you something. So now, in my quiet time, I try to really tap into my physical self and my spiritual self and say, hey, how could I be better to my body? I've got to double down on my self-care, not just with great high intensity workouts like you'd have at Fit Body Boot Camp or at Fitness Quest 10, but also on the restorative side and recovery side and getting the mellow yellow time and not trying to save the world 7 days a week, 365 days, or more than that, 15 months of that. But when you're on, you got to be on. When you're off, you got to take time off to really make sure that you could restore your batteries also.
Cool. Yeah, so true. And especially just with all the chaos that we've all been through.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, and kind of looking at the industry in large, and man, TD, it's been a tough go, and a lot of the industry that we're in, has contracted because of COVID. A lot of, coaches and trainers and businesses being closed. Hopefully, as we just talked about, we're at the tail end of this and we have brighter, days ahead, which I'm a full-blown optimist. I feel this way, but I want to tap into your, perspective. Where are we at as an industry, and kind of what are the next days, weeks, months, and years ahead look like as we, kind of get off this COVID overglow?
Yeah, if I could be Nostradamus for a second, I love the mountains, and the older I get, the more I am pulled to the mountains. I find such peace in the mountains, and I can turn it off. My mind can turn off there, and I've realized that's where I get all my big ideas, is when I can turn my mind off. I realize this: the higher the mountain, the deeper the valley. So the higher the mountain, the deeper the valley. If I was to drop a rubber ball off a very high mountain to the valley, it's going to have a big rebound effect. Versus a very small mountain, if I drop the same rubber ball, it's not going to rebound as high.
Right.
We've been in one heck of a valley for 15 plus months now. And it's been a valley where sometimes you and I don't know how the heck we're going to claw out of this thing. Like, are we really ever going to see the light? But the one thing I kept saying in this to the people I was coaching, literally both virtually through Zoom, like streaming workouts at Fitness Quest 10, my mastermind group trying to save gyms like you guys were, and all the people I was coaching, is the deeper the valley, the higher the rebound. The deeper the valley, the higher the rebound. And this was like in the middle of pulling equipment out because you can only work outside and all the other stuff that we had to deal with. Finally, like, people are really starting to see that mountaintop. The light is on. And I believe, to answer your question, the reason I give that analogy is this: the fitness industry in the next 18 months is going to have such an epic return. Why? Because people are hurting. They're hurting physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. People are hurting. They've been isolated, and we're human beings who need to be around people.
Tribal species.
They're networking. It's like, oh my God, give me a hug, give me a high five. That people want to be back around their community. So they're going to naturally want to come back, especially as even those people who are still living in fear are going to be coming back. I believe that the next year and a half, 2 years is the start of what will be a global phenomenon of people saying, I got to take care of my health. Because I always said, including at the live event we had 2 years ago for Fit Body Bootcamp, he or she who has their health has 1,000 dreams. He or she who does not has one. We learned through this pandemic, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. So now is the time. There's no more excuses. We got to have our health. We got to do everything we can at all costs. Whether that's monetary costs, that's time, that's energy, allocation of your focus. Like, I believe the fitness industry is so well positioned to help more people than have ever helped before. And the collaborative aspect of this is going to be huge, because it used to be about competition. You just mentioned there's a lot of studios and gyms that are no longer in existence.
No.
So I believe that the future is going to be collaborating, because there's billions of people worldwide that need to be helped. There are going to be a lot of people right now who are scratching their heads, maybe even listening to this podcast. They're like, man, I'd love to be a fire-breathing dragon. I'd love to be a life transformer. I'd love to get into fitness as a hobby or even as a profession, or open a brick-and-mortar studio, gym, a Fit Body Bootcamp, whatever it is. And I want to help people. Guess what? There's opportunity now.
Oh, yeah.
There's opportunity, because people, heck, the last month alone at Fitness Quest 10, I've seen people at the gym that I hadn't seen in 5 years. They're coming out of the woodwork because they're like, hallelujah, we got to go. We got to get better. It's time. So I believe we're well positioned for an epic, epic comeback.
Man, I am with you on that. And Todd, I feel the same way even at my gyms, because not only here at HQ or Fit Body headquarters, but I still have my 2 locations of Fit Body Bootcamp in Orange County. And just the last 6 weeks, you can kind of just feel the excitement, right? And it's just, people have been caged up. So I believe you're right, and I sure hope we're both right. So.
No, I know I'm right because people know they need to work on their health now.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be we had to like go out there and evangelize. Of course, we're still going to evangelize because that's who we are. But the darkness that people have experienced in the last 15 months, there's another pandemic on the other side of this with mental health and depression and anxiety and all of the things that we know is going to happen. Kids are facing this as well. So we know that exercise, we know that health is going to combat that in a way that nothing else can. Mm-hmm. So the fitness industry, all of the different adjunctive therapies with fitness, they're going to thrive. And I believe that the folks who are really coming from a servant, I'll call it servant leadership way, are going to excel. Mm-hmm. If you're there to help people, like, hey, Bryce, how can I help you? How can I best serve you? And you're holding them accountable to their goals, and you're motivating them, and you're inspiring them, and they're having fun, and they're laughing again, and they're giving high fives again. Oh my God, like now you can write your own ticket to changing and impacting thousands of lives.
Oh yeah, it's coming.
It is.
It's coming.
It is, no doubt about it.
So last big kind of bullet point, TD, I want to hit, and we talked about the future of the fitness industry, but I want to talk about your future. And kind of, you're in a season of life right now. We talked a little bit about some transition, but, what does the next days, weeks, months, and, a couple of years look like for you?
Yeah. If one thing I've learned about the pandemic is it's hard to plan for 5 years from now, right? Like I'm the king of like reverse engineer your life, 25 years out, where do you want to be and work backwards. I still have that.
Well, I think we all learned that when the fact that you're dying at 110 years old,
I've got
right?
60 years.
Yeah. We've done some reverse engineering.
But I've also right now, like I'm really focused on the now. And I'm really excited. I'm in the middle of planning some live events. I've got a live event coming up in July, another few this fall. So for me, I know my wheelhouse is, again, speaking and live events. I love the retreat aspect. I love bringing in the soul aspect. So the fitness is part of my DNA, but also the soulful aspect and bringing that into an event or a retreat experience. I love. Fitness Quest 10 is my sanctuary, and it's always going to be part of who I am. But I'm also open right now to like new challenges and new adventures. And Bryce, to be honest with you, I've got my mastermind group who I love serving.
Who are your main, attendees or participants?
Most of those people are brick and mortar studio owners, fitness studio owners, who are in that and want both fitness business wisdom as well as I'd call it personal growth and development, because I'm a big believer in personal growth and development. I love coaching that. But I really am praying right now of how can I best serve the world? What can I do? What can I do? And when I tap into the whispers, and in my book, To Get Your Mind Right, Chapter 9, I call it tap into the whispers. If like when you take your quiet time, regardless of your faith, you take your quiet time, your meditation or your prayer, what's God saying? This is what you're ordained to do. This is what I want you to do with your life. And for me right now, I'm really tapping into that, and I'm staying open to like, how can I impact more people? For me, my purpose is I want to impact 10 million people in my lifetime. I'm not sure how that's going to get done. Is that through speaking and writing, which I love both of those aspects, or is it that I'm going to get involved with a new venture in a few years? I'm open to that. Right now, for me, it's about serving at Fitness Quest 10, serving my mastermind in the live retreats. Serve. Let the path unfold. And what I've learned is people come into your life just when you need them to, and they open doors to opportunities that all of a sudden you're like, wow, how did that person get in my life? You realize it was, again, going back to people who have popped into my life at incredible times, from the Coach Wolf to Dub Lee with the Rolfing and all my mentors along the way. People come into your life, and right now I'm really excited for the future because we've got live events. I'm doing more speaking than ever before, and I love the platform, and I've got a great community of people who I get to serve every day.
Heck yeah, man, dude. And you are all heart, so I'm fired up for you, buddy. All right, my friend, dude, this has been awesome. You've been so gracious with your time. I still got a few minutes left. I want to transition to lightning round if you're up for it.
Oh, lightning round. Whoa, that sounds fun. Let's do it.
All right, so first question for you. What would be you, and I have a few ideas, but what would you say that your zone of genius is and your biggest gift that you're destined to impart on the world?
I would say my biggest gift would be probably mentoring. And I say mentoring, that could be through speaking, which I love speaking. That moves my soul probably more than anything when I'm getting ready for a big game. I still get nervous, right? When I'm getting ready for a keynote in or outside the fitness industry. I love that. My genius zone, this might surprise you, writing.
Surprised.
I love to write. I journal most days of the week, and I love when I'm on a writing project. I wish I said I had more time to write more books, but I love to write. I think it's something that I'm pretty good at. My father taught me that when I was in middle school, of how to write creatively, but even copy for events, and I still write all my emails for my podcast. I write all of that. We do 2 episodes a week. I write all the copy. I enjoy it. It's relaxing for me. Every Sunday night I write. So I'd say a genius zone that I have, beside the speaking aspect, that I enjoy a lot is the writing.
Beautiful. Next up, as a coach, you are in the business of giving incredible world-class advice to your coaching clients or professional athletes, all the way down to your normal to everyday people. What would you say has been one of the biggest pieces of advice that you've been given, and why?
Ooh, that's deep right there. Depending on what season of life you're in, one is don't make your decisions on what everyone else thinks. Make the decisions on what your gut says you need to do. So that'd be one, is not that I'm saying don't care what other people think, but don't make your decision by what other people think. That's one. But I'd also say, I call it, I believe it's the 6 F's, that fear, frustration, and failure is overcome. Fear, frustration, and failure is overcome with faith, forward thinking, and follow through.
The 6 F's.
The 6 F's. So when you think about that, fear, frustration, and failure is overcome with faith, follow through, and fear, frustration, and failure is overcome with faith, forward thinking, and follow through. So forward thinking, looking in the windshield versus the rearview mirror. What's your vision? Where are you going? And looking that way, not in the rearview mirror, and reflecting on all that. And the follow through is following through with what you're going to say. And of course, faith. I don't know how the heck I would have gotten through the last 15 months alone without my faith, let alone my life, because that's where I make the decision. So that's just some of the wisdom I'd say is if you'd ask just a couple. I've got a book of that.
Awesome. Next up, man, you are just a passionate dude, which I love so much. What would you say is one of your biggest sources of passion these days, and why?
Oh, that's an easy one. Spending time with my family. My kid's getting ready to go to college.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
by the way.
Luke's going to college.
Where to? I know
he's going to Davidson, North Carolina. It's a FCS program down there. He's a quarterback. And I've got to tell you, I've coached all 3 kids. So from the time they were knee high, I always made time to coach. And even when I was training, or at an event on a weekend across the country, across the world, I was always coaching them. And my 18-year-old is going to college. And I guess another thing I'd say as far as wisdom is I call it 18 summers. You've probably heard of 18 summers. You got 18 summers with your kids to make wow moments.
18 summers.
18 summers. You got 18 summers. And how are you spending every summer? And to me, this is my last summer with my oldest son, my oldest kid.
Yeah.
So the other day he asked me if I want to go throw at the park. And I really didn't want to. It was Sunday afternoon. I was tired. I said, yes, of course, I would love to.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what.
Because you're not going to get many
I'm not
of those
going to get that. I got about a month left, and then he's off to college, and he's growing up, and to me, I'm savoring every day, every dinner. We always have dinner together. And I'm savoring that time right now. So I'm spending a lot of time with the family. We've got a couple of trips coming up before we actually drop him off down in North Carolina. But I'm just really, really loving every second with my family right now.
Beautiful. Next up, book recommendation. What would be a book, a pivotal book or learning I guess, lesson or experience that, or a source of content, I should say, but really a book recommendation that really has impacted you? And, I'll say, shameless plug for Get Your Mind Right, which just came out last year. But aside from that, what would be something that's moved you?
It's a book I'm reading right now. It's Relationship Grit. Relationship Grit by John Gordan. And John's a friend of mine. I love his work. I've read, I think, all of John's books. But what's unique about Relationship Grit is that he wrote it with his wife, Catherine, because John Gordan, if you don't know, a prolific author.
Yeah, he's authored so many books.
So many books.
Yeah.
And you like a Drew Brees, you think, oh, he's just always been a great author. John was lost in his 20s. John and Catherine almost got divorced. And she basically gave him an ultimatum to get his life right. And John decided that he was going to become a full-time author. And he pretty much he burned the boats. When you say burn the boats, he went all in. And he talks about his book tours in the beginning when he wrote his first book, that he was showing up. He has a national tour with 5 or 10 people showing up at a location. So you're on this national book tour, there's only 5 people there. Imagine that. So you think John Gordan, great author, and
so
thousands
much
of people.
Following, yeah.
5 people at these book tours. So sometimes we think we see the Instagram world of all these people. Listen, roll up your sleeves, and sometimes you're going to have one person in the audience, right? It's okay. Connect, because you don't even know who you're talking to. Like, who is that person? And connect with them the same as if you're training them. So this book, Catherine, his wife, and he co-wrote it. So you have John's perspective and Catherine's perspective. And I find there's a lot of wisdom in the wife's perspective or the spouse's perspective on that. And it's actually giving me an idea like, man, I should write a book with my wife Melanie, because she has a different perspective on everything that I do. And she's got a lot of wisdom in her that she fuels me. And when I'm making big decisions, I rely on her a lot. So Relationship Grit. If you're married or you're in a relationship now, I can't recommend enough Relationship Grit.
Love it. 2 more questions for you, TD.
Awesome.
Habits, man, so critical in success. What would be a critical habit or 2 that you've picked up over the years that led you to the promised land?
Oh man, this is good, Bryce. I don't know if you're going to like these answers, everybody. I actually, you talk about habits. I'm pretty disciplined in my habits. I've got 13 rules of living, and these are all basically habits.
Sounds like a book, TD.
Actually, it should be, but it's not yet.
Yes.
Maybe I'll start writing that tonight. But my first habit is to not turn on the phone first thing in the morning. I don't turn my phone on.
For how long?
An hour and a half.
Ooh.
Yeah. I've learned that the hard way. My phone gives me stress and anxiety. Like when I look at it first thing in the morning, I don't want to look at it because I get anxiety because I know there's people who need something.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready to serve them yet. People are like, you wake up and you're always on fire. No, I'm not. I don't. I have my morning routine that I need that works for me. And it doesn't mean I'm getting on text, emails, and DMs on Instagram right off the bat.
Yeah.
I have to fuel myself first. So my number 1 rule is don't turn on the phone until my morning routine is done. So yeah, I'm going to listen to podcasts while I'm working out, but I'm not turning the phone on and going through all the texts, going through all the emails, and everything else, only because I feel like then the day is dominating me and versus me dominating the day.
That's it.
That's about, for me, it's like, that's the only hour and a half that I'm going to have. That's my time where I'm going to get quiet time. I'm going to have my prayer time. I'm going to work out. I'm going to move the body. I'm going to take the pup out for a walk. I'm going to listen to a podcast. Like, this is my time that I'm going to have. And then I'll get on to responding to everyone else's when I say so. So that's a habit. Along with some of the other ones I just said, is part of my morning routine, are habits too. Something during the pandemic that I created as a new habit was output in the morning, input in the afternoon. What do I mean by that? I love to create content, writing, video, podcast. So I typically do that in the morning. Right after my morning routine is done, my energy is best.
So that's when you do your output.
That's when I do my output. So there's not input coming in. I'm not watching TV. I'm in this very creative space mentally. I just can't sit down and write an email or write the copy I love to write. I've got to create that space and that environment that puts me in that mode on that. So then in the afternoons is when I schedule my meetings or I do my emails. I do the things that are coming in to my inbox and responding to that. So I've tried to structure that as a habit. And the last thing I'd say, out of the 13, is just the nighttime routine has become even a more important habit. Why? Because during the pandemic, I was horrible with my nighttime routine because I talked about I was trying to save the world, and it became till like midnight. I was exhausted working, and I was like, I'm exhausted. And I would literally shut down the computer, turn off my phone, walk upstairs, plop in bed, and I'd sleep like garbage because I was on. My mind couldn't turn off. So I'd sleep 4 or 5 hours, and I'd wake up, and my morning routine would be horrible. Because if I broke that rule and I got my phone right away, or I was tired so I didn't get a good workout in, I wasn't at my best. So I took a little bit of wisdom from Brendon Burchard and started my 3-2-1 routine. My 3-2-1 routine was 3 hours before bed is eat, 2 hours before bed, no work, 2 hours before bed. And in the last hour, there's no electromagnetic devices, no phones, no computers, no TVs. Amp up the personal care. So I got a Juve wall, red light therapy. So I sit in my Juve wall, I stretch, I get my prayer time in. I have a little quick evening journal thing I do, and spend some time with the honey. So for me, that last hour is personal care. And when I'm really on point with that most nights of the week, now I sleep better. And when I sleep better, the morning routine's dialed in. So my energy is I create better. The podcast, the writing, they're like, TD, your email is really speaking to me, or your podcast is on fire. Guess what? It went back to the night before. So I look at it now, it used to be like morning routine. I look at it now, it's like my evening routine is really what's important, is turning it off, because I had a tough time early on in the pandemic was turning it off. And I was like, I got to dial my nighttime routine in. I've been able to do that.
That's powerful, man, because my morning routine is dialed in, but my nighttime routine needs some work. And that 3-2-1, I'm taking that. And you guys got a lot of value there. So
yeah, thank you.
Love that.
Good. Use it. It works. It's. I have clients who are like, can I do like the 2-1-30? Like 2 hours and the 1 hour and then the 30. I'm like, sure. Find what works for you, right? Like, find what works for you. I just find like, okay, ideally, that if I'm going to bed, ideally at 10 o'clock, that's ideal. 7 o'clock, I'm not eating at 8:30 at night. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm shutting her down work-wise.
Yeah.
Work-wise, because it's not going to be 10, 11 o'clock. I don't do my best work late at night. And then last hours is all about family, kids, and amping up that personal care.
Love it.
Yeah.
TD, this has been fire, my friend.
Honored.
One last question for you,
okay.
And it's really just to provide your last piece of parting wisdom for our audience who are interested in fitness, interested in business, interested in entrepreneurship, potentially interested in launching a business to make an impact, which is literally your name of your game. What would you say would be your best piece of parting wisdom that will better their lot in life and in business?
Man, listen, I'd say get your mind right all the time. I think half the time I'm speaking to myself. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. My athletes love when I get these videos. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. But now is the time to get your mind right, because I believe that if there's ever a time to get your mind right, it's right now. And when I say we're built for times like this, sometimes you wonder why the heck God gave you so much. You're like, yeah, I don't know if I can handle all this. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of adversity, a lot of challenge. But I truly believe that if we connect with the right people, we surround ourselves with the right people. That's why I always say iron sharpens iron. Hang out with guys like you, Bryce. It's like, man, I want to be better. I want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband, a better father, better trainer, better coach, better entrepreneur, all these things. And all of a sudden, I'm dialing my habits and my routines. All of a sudden, you start manifesting what you say you want to do. So number one is you get your mind right. That's his first step. And you make sure you're training and you're eating and you're treating yourself like the pro athlete that you need to be. So even if you're not a pro athlete, you need to train, eat, and think like a pro athlete. right? That's a very important aspect. And the last aspect I'd say is this: when you think about impact, like, what is your life about? What moves do you need to make in your relationships, as a mom or a dad, as a trainer, as a coach? How can you be better? How can you be better as a leader? It's not my title. Forget your title. Forget the title. How can you serve more people in your company? How can you serve more people on the team? Can you volunteer more around the community? Can you give back more to your church? Can you serve more people? Because when you serve, it fills you with gratitude because it feels good. You fill yourself up with gratitude, and gratitude and fear and stress and anxiety aren't coexisting. So if we can live in a gratitude state, if you're feeling sorry for yourself today, number one, thank you for listening to today's show with Bryce, but just keep writing on your journal. I'm so grateful for whatever it is. And every day, I'm writing the same thing. I'm so grateful for Melanie. I'm so grateful for my kids. I'm so grateful for Fitness Quest 10. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So if you're filling your heart up with gratitude, man, you're going to have enough to say, I don't have this. Woe is me. The world is collapsing. No. Focus on what we do have, not what we don't have, because what we do have is plenty to make sure that we're fulfilled.
My man.
Oh, love it.
Love you, TD. Well,
thank you, Bryce.
Dude, man, this has been awesome. Where can our audience find you at?
Well, thank you. My website, ToddDurkin.com, has everything, ToddDurkin.com. So we have live events, retreats, different things going on. So ToddDurkin.com, and also Instagram or Facebook, just Todd Durkin on Instagram. Check it on out. I love social media. It's something I do. I try not to do it in my most creative times when I'm doing that, but I do respond to all my DMs, and I love connecting with people. So go to ToddDurkin.com. Also my podcast, Todd Durkin Impact Show. We're doing 2 episodes per week right now. We just celebrated our 200th episode. I can't believe it. We just did number 200, which is crazy to me.
Congrats,
we're 2
man.
years old. It's crazy, right? We're doing these podcasts of how many people you can reach globally. So congratulations to you, Bedros, and the team for doing these, because I know it takes a lot of effort, but most importantly, it takes people like you who are listening right now, sharing the gospel of motivation, inspiration, of fitness, business, whatever it is. The world needs more positive people. When I talk about being a lighthouse, the world needs more lighthouses. You got to light yourself up first from the inside out. When you light yourself up from the inside out, all of a sudden you're connecting with little boys and girls, men and women, grandmas and grandpas that are getting lit up. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I need to get lit up. That's why I'm here today. That's why I made the drive up to see you, Bryce, and the team. Is I hope that we just lit some people up today, man.
Oh, we surely did. No doubt in my mind, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, before we wrap, I just wanted to take a second to thank you and to acknowledge you, TD. And I'm actually going to tell you a story. I don't know if you know this, but back in 2014 is when my first business fitness business summit, which Bedros put on. And it was a big event, a lot of pros, and I got the call to be one of the presenters. And I was a couple of years in my
I do remember that.
In my fitness business journey. I was so excited, and I gave it my best, which I was so fired up. But there was this one keynote, there was this one presenter that just rocked the crowd, and that guy was you. And that was the first time I ever met you. And I remember watching you from the stage, and the words that you spoke, the energy that you laid down, I remember thinking, man, one day I want to be like that guy. And that's probably one of the biggest accolades I can give you. So I want to acknowledge you, and I want to thank you for that.
Wow. That makes my day right there. It's words of affirmation that actually fire me up. So thank you for sharing that. I remember actually you came up to me and said that before that talk of you were in the room to hear that. It's interesting how you remember certain conversations, certain people. I remember you sharing that with me that day, 2014. I didn't realize it was then. But for me, why I do what I do is because exactly what you just said. When I hear someone, hey, I heard your talk last year, I heard a podcast episode, or 2010, I was, wherever. I'm like, that's why I got on a plane and went there, or that's why I did this. Because when I know that I've impacted someone's life, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's what it's about for me. Legacy, impact, man. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Well, my friends, I know you got a ton of value. This episode was fire. And assuming you got the value that you're looking for, if you can go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and write us an awesome 5-star review on iTunes, that will help us continue to deliver this awesome content and value for free. And that's all we have for today. Thanks again, Todd.
Thanks, Bryce.